Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. We'll get started in a few minutes. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, whoever are joining. My name is Missy Schaaphok, and I'm the head dietitian for Yum Brands and senior manager of global nutrition and sustainability for Taco Bell. Okay, so I know as people are starting to join, definitely we'll take questions along the way. I'll do my best to answer them as they come up in the chat. Again, this is my first Facebook Live and I'm doing it from my phone, so we'll kind of see. Hello. Good morning. We'll give it a few more minutes and let some more people join in. Hope you guys are having a good week. Okay. We'll wait a couple more minutes. Hi, Neva. Good to see you. Definitely was not the same at Fancy this year, I'm sure. Where am I? I'm actually, I'm in my living room, but I'm surrounded by plants and pictures from a lot of traveling. It makes me feel like I've been somewhere versus just on my couch for the last 8 months. But in terms of where I am physically, I'm in California, Orange County. I'm waving back at you, Neva. I live in Newport Beach, California, which is in Orange County. All right. So I think we have a good amount of people, and it looks like it's about 9:00 a.m. Pacific time for me, and I think for some of you across the United States, it's about noon. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I definitely see some familiar names popping up in the chat here. So good to see some familiar faces or names, and excited to talk to those who I haven't yet. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Missy Schaaphok. I am the head global dietitian for Yum Brands, and within Yum Brands is Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell. So I represent Taco Bell specifically, and I'm the senior manager of global nutrition and sustainability. So from a social media standpoint, I'm mostly on Instagram, where you can follow me at Miss Foodie RD. And that's where it's my personal blog, where I just post things about, you know, what I eat, where I travel, and how I stay active. That's really my mantra that I live by, and I'm sure for those of you who know, I have a dog, and she's a very big part of my life, so you'll see a lot of her too. From the Taco Bell side, I think I mentioned this in the sneak peek preview video yesterday, but we have a timeline that we call our Food for All journey. Food for All lifestyles, and so basically it just outlines the past decade plus of all the great work that Taco Bell has been doing over the years to bring unexpected good to people's lives. So definitely recommend you check that out. If you just Google Taco Bell Food for All journey, then you'll find this timeline and a lot of great information. So I'll take questions along the way, so feel free to type them up and ask away, but I'll go ahead and just get started with how I became a dietitian, which was definitely not the intended path. But I'll start, you know, when I was really little, I guess food has always been my passion, and subtly nutrition was too. So, you know, when my mom would take my brother and I to the grocery store and we'd go to pick up cereal, she made us make sure that there was at least 2 grams of fiber per serving in our cereal. So we weren't able to get any sugary cereal, we had to get high fiber cereal, or at least 2 grams or more. So I think intuitively or subconsciously, ever since I was a kid, I've always been reading labels and thinking about nutrition, and that's largely due to my mom. So, but then, my mom was single for us growing up, and so I think I was like 10 or 11, and my mom asked us, my brother and I, to start cooking one night a week. So I totally got into that. I had themed dinners. I would use all of her fancy plates and tablecloths, and I would make these gourmet meals at 11, or at least what I thought was gourmet. So ever since I was really young, I've been cooking in the kitchen and helping my mom out and reading labels, and so I think it's always been a part of my life. But, growing up, I always thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. I grew up with a lot of dogs and animals, and I loved them, and so my whole life or adolescence, I thought I want to be a veterinarian. So I went to pre-vet school in Texas and quickly realized that while I love animals, I didn't want to work on them, and Texas was not for me. So I used to go there a lot. I have family that live there, but living there is different. I'm definitely a California girl. So made my way back to California, finished up my general education at a junior college, but it was there at that junior college where I took a nutrition class. And definitely fell in love. I was that annoying student that was in the front seat, answering every question. I totally fell in love. So nutrition was, definitely the path that I was like, okay, I need to go down here. And then at the same time, I had visited a friend in San Diego, and I'm like, why am I not in San Diego? Why am I in Texas, or why am I in San Jose, which is where I'm from? So I applied to San Diego State and transferred there as a junior and did their food science and nutrition program and dietetic program. And it was there that I definitely fell in love, not only with San Diego, but just the whole dietetic field. I didn't really know what a dietitian was per se. It wasn't like something I was aspiring to, but when I got to San Diego State, I realized that that was an option for me. And so I decided to go down that path. So I did the didactic program, the DPT program. But I also knew that food, again, was at the root of my soul, and that I wanted to do everything in my power to work with food. In the program, a lot of the teachers were pushing clinical first, clinical. But I just knew that that wasn't really the path for me. So right away, I did everything that I possibly could to go down the path of working in food. Wherever I worked, volunteered. I even got involved in the hotel tourism program at San Diego State as well, because I just knew that I wanted to be in some type of like hospitality or food related environment. And so, when I graduated, I finished the DPT program, graduated college, did not pursue the internship right away, actually. So I ended up getting an internship in my last semester of college at San Diego State, working in food science at Rubio's Restaurants. So their headquarters is in San Diego. And so I had the opportunity to intern there and loved it. I loved product development. I loved food science. I loved developing menu items for restaurants. So I thought, okay, this is the path I should go down. I don't need to become a dietitian because all the people I worked with were just food science majors. And of course, against all of my, teachers' advice, they all wanted me to do the internship. I'm like, nah, I'm good. So did my internship at Rubio's. They ended up hiring me part-time. So I got to work there for a couple of years, but I needed a full-time job. Clearly, I was graduated from college by this point. So I had to find another full-time job. So I ended up leaving Rubio's, and I worked for this other food company called Glanbia Foods. So they're a nutraceutical company. And so what I did there was I formulated micronutrient premixes to fortify food and beverage and cosmetics products. So think Cliff Bar and their vitamin premix that's in the bars, or think Monster Energy drink and the vitamin premix that goes into that beverage. I worked with those companies and I helped them formulate the right blend of micronutrients or amino acids or herbs or whatever they wanted in their formula that was suitable for their product. And that job was really awesome, gave me a whole different perspective to a different side of the food world. However, for me, I was further moved away from food, and I was working at the micro level, which was not that fun, not that tasty. Tasting solutions of vitamins and minerals in diluted water is really just not that delicious. I wanted to be working for Cliff Bar or Monster or, you know, the food companies. And so it was at that point in my life that I realized, okay, if I don't become a dietitian now, first of all, I'm gonna have to go back to school and retake some classes, which I didn't want to do. And I also didn't want to get stuck working in jobs where I was potentially limited because I didn't pursue the further credentials. So I quit my job, you know, against my dad saying, you have a good job, you're getting paid well, don't quit your job. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to. So I did. I quit, of course, after I got accepted into an internship. So I got accepted into the University of Delaware distance-based internship, which was great because I was still able to stay in San Diego and do all my rotations in San Diego. And so that was an awesome experience. By the end of that internship, I was completely broke, you know, not working. I think we're all used to, as dietitians, we're used to working for free for a really long time until you actually get a job. So through my internship, I did a rotation at WIC. So thankfully, they happened to have some open positions. So once I was done with my internship and passed my RD exam, I got a job at WIC in San Diego at the American Red Cross WIC program. And, you know, thankfully for me, because counseling was definitely not, you know, part of my life path or part of my passion or, you know, career goals, I think within like the first few months of working there, they got special project funding to create a new role, which was to develop a cooking program from the ground up. And I'm like, oh, sign me up. So I interviewed for that, ended up getting that position. So for, you know, almost 3 years, I worked for WIC doing, I basically created a hands-on cooking program and developed their cooking demos. I was able to write and publish my first cookbook, first and only. And I mean, it's not available to the public, but it was through WIC, and we were able to distribute those to the participants. And so that was an awesome, awesome experience. I absolutely loved that job. You know, but like with any government-funded job, there's limitations, and it was a special project-funded position, so I knew that my time was probably limited. And it just so happened that, you know, from WIC, I went to Taco Bell, but like that is an interesting leap and jump going from public health, government-funded program to a fast food for-profit company. So how did I make that leap? It was actually my old boss at Rubio's who I stayed in contact with. And he always knew that food science, product development was my passion. And so he called me up randomly out of the blue and said, hey, there's a job at Taco Bell that I think you should apply for. And at the time, you know, I'm living in San Diego, and the job is in Irvine, which for those of you who don't know, that's 77 miles away and in California traffic. So, you know, times that by 3 hours of a commute each way. And I'm like, oh, that just, you know, I love San Diego, I love my job, and, you know, but he convinced me, he's like, hey, just give it a shot and see what happens. And so I applied, and I ended up getting the job. But the job was just product development. So Taco Bell only hired me as basically a junior product developer. They did not hire me because I was a dietitian. They did not hire me to do nutrition. They hired me to do product development. And it was because of my experience at Rubio's and Glambia Foods and that background in food. And then, of course, my time at WIC, that experience is what landed me the job. And so I got the job at Taco Bell, super excited, was commuting for a while, which was brutal. But finally moved up to Irvine and made the jump and left San Diego. So now I'm in Orange County, been here for 9 years. But at Taco Bell, it was interesting because, you know, completely not what I was expecting at all. I mean, just a completely different world. So intense and so fast-paced, and I had never experienced busy or crazy like that. So it took me a little while to get my feet wet and settled. And so, you know, about 6 months into my role, I realized I can't not be using my credentials. I mean, I quit my job, I did my internship, I was broke, like this is crazy. So I went to the head of the department and I asked her, I said, hey, I wanna own nutrition, I wanna lead it, I wanna do something with it. I said, honestly, I have no idea what that means or what that looks like, but I wanna take it to unprecedented levels, and I I hope that, you know, you have trust in me or faith in me that I could do that for you. Or whatever I said. And so next thing you know, 6 months later, I got the job. So she, you know, my boss, who's now my boss, who's the head of the department, she gave me, in addition to product development, the role of nutrition. And since then, so I've been at Taco Bell 9 years now, and oh man, it has evolved over time. Like, my role has just completely shifted and changed, but you know, I'm basically the first dietitian to work for Taco Bell. And not the first dietitian for Yum Brands, but the first dietitian for, I'm trying to read this question here. Oh yeah, yes, yeah, and I know those ladies. Well, I don't know the food science babe personally, but Jessica Faust from McDonald's. So there was a question of, I didn't realize how much food science and product development background, like some other people, like the food science babe and Chef Jessica Faust. Yeah, definitely know Jessica, she's awesome. So, so yeah, you know, the role at Taco Bell has evolved. And now what's crazy is I'm leading global nutrition and sustainability. I mean, who knew that I would be doing any of that? I just thought I would be analyzing recipes and putting calories on the menu boards. But it's been a completely remarkable and humbling experience, and so happy. I mean, I found my calling, I found the right culture. I mean, it's when you find the right balance of everything, it's like, I love the fast-paced environment, I love the dynamic work environment, I love all the people, the cross-functional nature, and I mean, yes, it's crazy and it's intense and there's very demanding, but I love it. So you're probably wondering what I actually do at Taco Bell. Okay, so Ellie Wilson has a question on how did I convince them to lower sodium. So let me get to that in a second, because that's part of what I do. I'll bake that in. So as a senior manager of global nutrition and sustainability for Taco Bell, I wear a lot of hats. But very, very simply put, I make tacos and what they come wrapped in a little bit better for you and the planet. I mean, that's the very easiest answer I can give someone. But basically, so we have a framework in which we follow, which is under our sustainability global citizenship framework from Yum, which is food, planet, and people. So I really manage the food and the planet programs and how they come to life. And so at Taco Bell, we have the same framework. And so I manage the food and planet programs. And basically within that is compliance, regulatory compliance. Then you have product innovation and affairs and reputation management. Those are the key areas of focus within the food and planet programs. So some examples of compliance, I mentioned menu labeling for restaurants. So my team manages and makes sure that we're compliant, basically globally, but for the most part, we're primarily responsible for North America when it comes to the menus. And from a packaging standpoint or a planet standpoint, we also manage and cover like single-use plastic bans, or if there's any local or state regulation or legislation around packaging. So my team will cover that too. On the innovation side, so this is the fun part. You know, compliance is fun too, but you know, innovation is where you can really get creative and have some fun. And so on the food side, my team, we develop actual items for the menu. So if you're familiar with the Taco Bell menu, you may be familiar with our vegetarian menu. And so that's something that we introduced and we developed. We partnered with the American Vegetarian Association to certify our ingredients, to have that credibility, to demonstrate that we are in fact formulating vegetarian food items. And so that has been a big program, and probably one of my longest programs that I've worked on. And then, so that's more of like having choice on the menu. And then the power menu is another one. So those are examples of things that we develop that actually show up on the menu board that consumers can order. And then there's the behind the scenes work, which I like to call stealth health. And the stealth health work is like reducing sodium and reducing added sugar. So where we reduce sodium is across our food, and where we reduce added sugar is really across our beverage portfolio, because that's where we have the biggest, that's where we can make the biggest impact. So I'm going to finish off with just talking about my role, and then I'll go back to sodium to answer the question earlier. So then on the planet side, there's the sustainable sourcing animal welfare, but also packaging and recycling. So those are all other big categories that my team covers. So in January of this year, Taco Bell Global, actually, we made a commitment to convert all of our packaging to all consumer-facing packaging to be sustainable, meaning recyclable, compostable, reusable by 2025. And that also includes we're not going to use any added chemicals of concern like the PFAS chemistry, phthalates, BPA. And then we're also, on top of that, we want to give consumers access to recycling. So we're going to put recycling streams in our restaurants where the infrastructure permits. And this is across the globe. So this is also a big, big program that my team is going to oversee. But we also work on animal welfare initiatives. So you may have heard some stuff from Taco Bell around having cage-free eggs, not using antibiotics important to human medicine in our chicken. And then just last year, we committed to reducing antibiotics important to human health in our beef in North America. And so, yes, I will get to that as well, describing my day right after this. And so again, a lot of stuff going on. Again, I mentioned that Food for All journey, so it outlines all the stuff that I'm mentioning right now. And then on the affairs side, so my team works closely with our internal PR team. So we're, I guess, what you would call our Taco Bell ambassadors for this type of work. And so we do a lot of internal and external engagement. So whether it's talking to franchisees or activist groups, presenting at conferences, doing events like this, we go out and basically tell our story. Because, you know, it's really hard to get the word out. As much as we send press releases, we talk to media, it only reaches so many audiences. So it takes a lot of, takes more effort to get the word out. And it's a constant thing that we do. So I'll answer the question on sodium, and then I'll get into what my actual day looks like. And so someone had asked the question around, you know, how did I convince Taco Bell to reduce sodium? So before I started, Taco Bell had already reduced some sodium, but they actually did it a little too aggressively. They reduced a lot of sodium over a very short amount of time. And what happened is consumers took notice and there was a sales decline. And so there's a lot of bad baggage around sodium and reducing sodium, because I think as consumers, you read a label, and I think Campbell's soup is one of those iconic examples of when they put reduced sodium on the label, it's like, ooh, it's not going to taste good, I'm not going to buy it. So similarly, consumers took notice with flavor, and they were not happy. And so when I came on, it was almost seeing a little bit of the trends happening. Like the FDA was starting to draft was starting to hear about how they're going to release some voluntary reduction guidelines soon. Just doing some analysis of our menu, noticing we had some more work to do. So basically I put together a proposal of what I felt like an achievable sodium reduction could look like over time. And because of the way that it was presented, and really did the data analysis, worked with the sales analysis team to understand our menu, what we're high mixing, where we could make the biggest impact, what that sodium reduction actually translated to in terms of how much we'd have to reduce each year. I spent probably 1 or 2 years just completely cleaning up all of our data and really developing a good track record of how we're going to track our progress year over year and manage that moving forward. Our president was like, yeah, sign us up. So, since I think in 2015 is when we announced our additional reduction journey so we're basically tracking towards a total of 25% reduction across our menu by 2025, and we've almost met that. So, but it's something that we have to constantly keep top of mind, because sodium's very cheap, it's a very clean label word, and so when you just think about the functionality of it, how hardworking it is, and you think about our menu and flavor, that's usually the go-to, but we have to get more creative with different spices and flavors and just how things are commercialized. So we are, I'd say, I think at first maybe people internally saw me as the sodium Nazi, but now we've turned that a little bit and tried to position ourselves as more solution-oriented and taking more time to analyze the menu to provide solutions on how we can reduce sodium and how it won't impact the flavor and it won't impact the consumer experience. And it's just a work in progress. So hopefully that answered your question. So another question was, what does my typical day look like? Well, I would say I think all of us right now, our typical days are probably in our homes, on our couches, or in some type of makeshift desk. And I would say that is mostly my life right now. But pre-COVID, definitely a lot more intense. So, but I would say in general, whether it's virtually or, or otherwise, we spend time in the kitchen. We're very meeting heavy. We're very collaborative, which is why we have a lot of working sessions. We do a lot of presenting. Again, internal, external stakeholders. So whether we have to update franchisees on where we're doing or presenting to executives on the programs that we're working on and what we're striving for. There's a lot of different activities that happen on a day-to-day basis. And I do have the opportunity to go into our test kitchens at times. And so like today, actually after this call, I have to go into the office for a very specific task and a very specific project to work through that. So we do have access to the kitchen, which is nice. It helps break up the day. But I'd say pre-COVID, I was traveling a lot more. Whether we were going to conferences, we have test markets where we're testing, so I mentioned the vegetarian menu. We might go test that in Ohio, so then I might have to fly out to Ohio to see how it's doing. Do mystery shops at the Taco Bell locations and talk to the operators there and ask them how it's going, and talk to the team members who are on the line and ask them, what do you think of this? Have you tried it? What are consumers saying? How is it for you building this on the line? Is it easy? Is it hard? So you get all that feedback. We visit suppliers. We go to production runs to oversee how our new ingredients are being made, to make sure that they're made properly and that we're there to add value to the production. We go on tours too. So right before COVID hit, I went to the Bay Area and took my team on a sustainability tour. We wanted to see what's happening in San Francisco and in this highly regulated market on packaging, and what solutions do people have and competitors have, or other mom and pop shops. What are they doing? We visited a material recycling center, so that was really interesting. I got to look at a lot of trash. I never thought that I would have more pictures of trash on my phone right now than food, but that is the role of packaging and sustainability now for me. We went on a tour and looked at the beef supply chain. So we went to cow-calf operations, to feed yards, to the harvesting, where they basically slaughter the cows. So I got to see that whole process. To educate myself, since we made the commitment to reducing antibiotics, we needed to understand the whole supply chain. So again, a lot of travel, a lot of dynamic work environment. But now COVID land, we are, basically everything's virtual. But what's cool is we're getting really creative. So we're using Teams. Suppliers will send us basically packages to our homes. We all stream in through Teams, and we basically use our kitchen to test through new ideas, new concepts, new ingredients. So we're doing what we can to basically emulate what we were doing in the corporate office in our homes. And the things that we physically can't do here from a food standpoint, we have access and we're able to go into the kitchens. But we did our whole franchise convention online, so that was pretty cool. So we're just getting really creative with that. And I think Roxana has a question on the nutrition department size and structure. So that's a great question. I mentioned my team a lot. We're a small team, I will tell you. But I would say, so our team sits within the food innovation team at Taco Bell. So there's marketing, there's operations, there's finance, all those different departments that work for Taco Bell. And we are the food innovation team. And so within the food innovation team, there's product development, commercialization, food safety, engineering, international, and there's also my team, which is the global nutrition and sustainability team. So within that, I actually have a second dietitian who works for me. I have a sustainability coordinator and a packaging engineer. And that is our team, and basically all the work I just described, the four of us divide and conquer, and we work on that together. We also support Yum brands, more from a food and packaging standpoint, but we provide strategic counsel and support to the other brands. And we support them on a lot of the big initiatives. We basically ladder up to Yum when it comes to all those commitments and the sustainability commitments that I mentioned earlier. So there's another question on if I get criticism from other RDs and how do I handle that? And what's one thing you would like nutrition students and dietitians to know about working with fast food as a dietitian? So that's a great question, and I would say I get that less and less these days. I feel like the stigmatism of dietitians working just in industry, what they call us, or the food industry, I feel like is simmering down. I'd say when I first started, I remember there was one fancy that I went to. I think it was my first fancy working for Taco Bell, and I forget which group it was, but there was a group that was basically going to rebel against the food industry, dietitians, and there was heightened security. And I just remember hearing that they're gonna have more security walking the expo floor, and I just thought, this is crazy. You know, why are we so divided? There doesn't need to be, because what better place for a dietitian to be than working for a fast food company or working within a food company? Who else is going to advocate for change or advocate for new ideas and really just push the boundaries? Sure, they might not all work, and we might not, most of them get denied, but what I like to call internally a lot of the work I do is I'm patiently persistent. Because I can't just ask once and then say, oh well, they said no. No, guess what? I'm going to ask again. Because I know it's important. I'm monitoring the trends. I'm seeing what's happening in the landscape. I'm watching competitors. I'm seeing what's happening in retail. And guess what? This is going to be forced upon us if we don't want to take a stand. And so, I think part of working internally is being that voice. I mean, sure, it's an uphill battle constantly, and you're usually a team of one, but if you're okay with that, I'd say, go for it. And so, so that's what I like a challenge, and I like, of course I love working in food, and I love Taco Bell, but what better place for a dietitian to be than working within the food company? That's where I would leave that. Let's see. Let's see, what did she say? We called that group the Dietitians for Professional Negativity. Yeah. I forget what I think they called themselves the Dietitians of Integrity or something. I'm like, well, I'm not sure about that. But I would say definitely now I feel like more and more people are open to the idea of, and they're actually seeing the benefit, and they're actually seeing that there's a lot of different opportunities for dietitian. You don't just have to go down the traditional path that was set out for you. Now, look at all the different types of jobs that are out there that dietitians can work for. I mean, it's awesome. I love it. And why, just think about the opportunities and think about the change that you can have. And I'll get on the supply chain thing in a second, but I just want to also say that, when I was working for WIC and I was was able to impact the lives of the community that I was within, but that was as far reaching as I could get. But that was part of why I loved doing that, was I knew that I was adding value, and I was providing them exposure to foods that I had never tried before, and teaching them essential culinary skills that they would have never otherwise learned. So that was really, really important to me, and that's one of the reasons why I really loved doing that job. But then at Taco Bell, we've been a global company, but we serve over 40 million people a week. That's a lot of people in the US alone. And so when you think about the impact that you can have across the US, across the globe on these initiatives, so sodium is a great example. A 15% reduction in sodium equates to 1.5 million pounds of salt removed annually from consumers' diets. So when I think about these changes that we make, I like to quantify them into pounds or some type of more visual, because it really demonstrates the true impact that you're having across the millions of consumers that we're serving. And so added sugar, for example, when we also campaigned to get rid of the extra large 40-ounce beverage cup, which, that's a controversial thing, because now you have Pepsi, you have franchisee, you have all these different stakeholders involved to get alignment to eliminate this size cup, which was successful, and we did. And by doing that, so by people trading down, not ordering the extra large cup and going to just a large, we saved 800 million grams of added sugar from consumers' diets annually. So again, these numbers are profound. And think about the impact now that dietitians working for other fast food companies, other big food company, retail companies, when they make these what seem like small changes, you actually have a huge monumental impact. And that is what brings me to work every day. And I love being able to quantify those numbers. And I think I can't wait till we figure out, you know, with sustainable packaging, how many resources we're saving, whether it's energy, water, trees, land conservation, whatever that is. Again, these, what seem like incremental changes are actually pretty profound across the board. So there's a question, again from Ellie, I think on supply chain. So on spec documents. And if I saw that correctly, I would say we work really, really closely with supply chain. So we have, Yum Brands actually in the US has a supply chain co-op that manages all the buying of all of our ingredients. And then we have program managers who manage our program basically when we're going to launch something, a limited time offer, or we have a new food program that we're going to showcase. They help manage the procurement of all those ingredients. So on the buying side, we work really closely with them to help identify the right partners. We create the gold standard essentially, and then these suppliers match and commercialize and bring it up to scale so that we can have a consistent product that we serve across all 7,000 restaurants in the US. So we basically dictate that. We develop the spec on the food side, and then we ask supply chain, okay, now we need you to secure this and purchase this and make sure that we have enough supply moving forward, whether it's for that limited time or for, you know, if it's base business. And that's for food and packaging, again, which both part of what I cover. And so on the packaging side right now, it's super interesting because, you know, we're working on sustainable packaging, right? And not everyone has the answer. And let me tell you, that's a complicated world. So we're constantly managing supply. Like, I think food would probably be an easier example for me to give. Think about how big Taco Bell is and some of our limitations. You know, some people would be like, why can't you just have a quinoa bowl on your menu? Or why don't you just do, you know, some crazy unique ingredient? Well, for one, for how big Taco Bell is, if we purchased quinoa, even for a limited time offer, we would probably wipe out the entire supply of quinoa, just to put it into perspective, for the sheer volume that we would need to even supply it for a short amount of time for the number of people that we serve. So that's one limitation we have with supply chain. The other thing is you have to think that we also have to think about the consumer taste profile, not just in California where our headquarters is, but in every single state that we operate across the US. And let me tell you, those taste profiles are vastly different. So we have to make sure that our marketing, our food, everything is broadly appealing enough that we can generate sales and repeat buyers. Like, we want them to come back and be happy across all 7,000 restaurants. And so, you know, that's a very big task. That's why we do a lot of consumer testing to make sure that we're getting it right. Let's see. Vanita has a question. Do you know why they took out the veggie pizza from their menu? Oh, are you talking about the Mexican pizza? Yeah, I'll touch on that. And it's so funny. Everyone is so upset about that. And then what are the main challenges to implement projects? Okay. So I'll talk about Mexican pizza, and then I'll talk about kind of just the process in which from ideation to product launch, what that looks like. So Mexican pizza. I would say that, you know, COVID obviously impacted a lot for the whole world, right? So we did see a decline. You know, we also have an impact to labor because of COVID. You know, people are getting COVID. Labor is a little volatile in terms of what you can expect. And so, but we're also now, because dine-ins are closed, pretty much 100% of our business is through the drive-through or through delivery or takeout, which means that our speed of service in the lines in our restaurants needs to be on point. And when you have food items that are more operationally complex, require multiple steps, it can slow down your speed of service. Additionally, some items have a lot of dedicated SKUs for one item. And that you have to think about the cost and the complexity again of the back of house operations, and what does that do to your overall menu and speed of service and menu cost of sales and just sales overall. So there was a lot that went into the decision making of removing a lot of things from the menu, but looking at what are the most complex, what do we have a lot of dedicated things to, what slows down speed of service, what maybe doesn't sell as much as we thought, or people are talking a lot about this Mexican pizza, but we didn't actually sell that many per day. And so I think a lot went into it. Plus, our menu is really complex. Like, we have so many items on the menu. So you also have to think about, we want to make room for future innovation. And it's really hard to do that when your menu's already so compact. The team members on the line could only remember so many recipes that we want to make sure that they get everything right, that the customer, when they order something, that it's accurate and that it's quality and that it's made fresh. And so, again, it's a very complex reason for why the Mexican pizza was eliminated, but I would say what that opens up is just a room for a lot more innovation. And that Taco Bell is really good at that. And we're always going to come out with something crazy and something new and something delicious. And so, it may or may not come back. We've gotten a lot of feedback, I will tell you. Franchisees, a lot of consumers. I've gotten a lot of nasty grams from my friends telling me why I removed it, which was not my decision. But I think we heard a lot. That and potato bites. Potato bites was another one that, we pissed some people off. So, I think we're going to figure out ways that we can either bring it back or bring it back in a new way or do something fun with it, because clearly it's a fan favorite. But I think every time that we remove something that's a fan favorite from the menu, people want it back. I always hear about the bell beefer. I don't think I ever ordered that, but that was before my time. But again, there's always those iconic items that people are like, why? Bring that back. So really good question, complicated answer, but it has a lot to do with just, making room for future innovation. So I think I may have missed another question, but let me see. Oh yeah, the main challenges to implement project and who are the main stakeholders. So it kind of depends on the project. So from a food side, so we're a marketing driven company, and so a lot of our insights come from our internal insights team. However, as a food team, we also come up with ideas. So ideas can come from anywhere. And then on the food side, we have a very tried and true process that we work through, and we test with consumers. We do lots and lots of consumer testing to make sure we get it right. As you recall, I mentioned we serve a lot of people across the U.S. So we need to make sure that we're going to satisfy all of those people and launch a program that we know will be successful and will help us get us to our big goals. So from that standpoint, it usually starts with the cross-functional team who really works on that insight, starts to build it out. So the insights team will do some research. The food team will start to do some competitive and working on some benchmarking and playing in the kitchen and figuring out what works. And then we start to show people. And on the food side, we always make sure that we show our food leaders first, because they're the ones who own the food and need to make sure that they're brought along and aligned with the food. And then it's like a cross-functional format from there. And cross-functionally, you always have finance, operations, food, and insights to make sure you're covering off on all those different aspects that impact the consumer and can impact sales. And so all of them have their own inputs, their own point of view to determine whether or not, hey, is this the right program? Finance will look at, are we charging the right amount? Are we going to make the right amount of profit that we need? And then operations, well, how complex is this program? Is this going to slow down speed of service? How is training going to go with my team members? And then, the food side. Are we meeting the right expectations? What's the quality, the food safety, the taste, all those different things? And then the insights team, consumer side, will just make sure, did we do the right testing? What does the consumer think? Is this the right program? So there's a lot of stakeholders that are involved in terms of along the way. And then when we go to actually test it in a test market, we have to sell it into franchisees. So they have to agree to test this program in their market. And we have to do all of our due diligence to demonstrate that, hey, this is a big idea. And we know we can price it at this. We want to test these and do all of these things before it actually goes nationally. Because we know we've already done our homework and our due diligence, and we have a feeling that this will be successful. We just need to test it first. And then you test it, you analyze those results again, and you see how it performed against how you projected. And if it does well, then it goes national. Sometimes it doesn't go well, and you have to go back to the drawing board, fix some things. Maybe, in the actual test market, the food was, complicated or didn't go quite as well, or we didn't get the marketing right, or whatever it is, and then you have to kind of go back, and sometimes you have to retest, and sometimes you don't. Depends on how many changes you make, and then it can go national, whether it's for a limited time or permanent. So there's another question from Diane on, are there more items on the horizon that fit into the vegan and vegetarian lifestyle? So I'm so glad you asked that question, because that is my favorite program to work on at Taco Bell. So in 2015, we launched our first ever certified vegetarian menu, certified by the American Vegetarian Association. And since then, we've just continually added and evolved that menu. In 2019 was the first time that we had launched the menu inside the restaurant and in the drive-thru, so on the menu boards versus just digitally. And that was huge for us because we had to make room on the menu for this. And that was not an easy thing to do. So basically, we know that vegetarian is huge for us. I mean, people have been ordering vegetarian at Taco Bell since we opened the doors back in, I think, 1962. We've had bean burritos on the menu. And so, I think we like to say that we're the long-standing place where vegetarians can come to eat and have an actual substantiated meal. I mean, we have 2 plant-based proteins on our menu. Plants are plants too. Beans are plants, and we have refried beans. Again, both are certified vegan, so there's no lard or animal fat in our refried beans. It uses canola oil. And then our black beans are super delicious. They're my favorite. And so those are 2 beans that you can basically customize and substitute on anything across the menu. So right at the start of COVID, we had worked with our digital team on what we call Veggie Mode. So on the kiosk, which is inside the restaurants, unfortunately, and a lot of restaurants are closed right now, with a simple swipe feature, it transforms the entire menu to vegetarian. We curated on the back end what we felt like was the best expression, whether it was refried beans or black beans, and we did that work for you. We tasted everything. And so this Veggie Mode, super cool. We're hoping to expand that across our other digital platforms. It's just, there's a lot of work that goes into that, more than I know to understand. But so that's one thing that we're doing. It's digitally, like, how can you just customize our existing menu, because there's already so many great options there. We have actually just yesterday, we again digitally, because that's kind of where everyone's ordering now. Everything's going online. We implemented what we call our Veggie Cravings menu. So we transformed basically our vegetarian menu, calling it Veggie Cravings, and then we added in some new stuff. So right now we have a limited time offer called the Toasted Cheddar Chalupa. Holy moly, that thing is delicious. It's basically a fried chalupa shell with toasted cheddar on the outside. It is delicious. Black beans, I think it's a supreme. So there's sour cream, lettuce, tomatoes, cheese on top. So good. So you can get that vegetarian, and it's in our Veggie Cravings menu right now. So we're starting to look at what are our LTOs, limited time offers, that we have that we can just make vegetarian. And then we figure out, okay, is this better with black beans? Is this better with refried beans? And we'll showcase that as the default, knowing that we feel like this is the best expression. But you can always sub it out if you want. And so the Veggie Cravings menu is on there right now. It has the 2 new ones are the black bean chalupa, and then the new limited time offer right now, which is the toasted cheddar black bean chalupa, and it is delicious. So I recommend you go out and try that. So since we're talking about food, I'll talk about some of my favorite hacks because there's a lot of really delicious things. So basically, to wrap up the vegetarian conversation though, you can expect a lot more next year. Vegetarian is going to be a big push for us. We're going to do a lot when it comes to vegetarian. We're going to get really creative with whether it's introducing new items, figuring out how to make our limited time offers, which are traditionally not vegetarian. How do we now have a vegetarian option that goes along with that? So you're going to see more of that. And just a lot more stuff. I can't really tell you the specifics, but what I can tell you is you're going to see more from us next year on that. So that's pretty exciting. But some fun menu hacks that I can share with you guys since we're on this topic is, again, I mentioned you can sub black beans, refried beans for any protein on any menu item on the Taco Bell menu. So that's number one. Two, some of my favorite go-tos. Now I might be a little partial because I developed some of them, but the Power Bowl, of course, is a great go-to if you're looking for something just super fresh. It's going to fill you up, won't weigh you down, just a really nice, good eat. It's around 500 calories. It was designed to be around 500 calories and over 20 grams of lean protein. So the Power Bowls are a great option. Again, you can get that vegetarian, you get that with the grilled chicken, grilled steak. It's fabulous. Then, you know, I like the classics. You know, I love our Crunchy Taco Supreme. It's just delicious with beef, sour cream, cheese. It's yummy. And it's only 190 calories. So it's a nice little snack. It's under 200 calories. It's great. The bean burrito, while what seems like a, simple eat, I like to zhuzh it up a little. So I'll get the bean burrito. I don't like the diced onions, so I get those out. I take those out. I like the cheddar cheese. I leave that in there. I add tomatoes, and I get it grilled. So there's a feature online that if you order through online or mobile ordering, you can get a burrito grilled if it's not grilled. That's a secret, and I love my burritos grilled. So I get my bean burrito grilled. My favorite hot sauce is our Diablo sauce, which is the spicy one. So I smother every bite in Diablo sauce. So take off the onions, add tomatoes, keep the cheese, because I like the cheese, and I get it grilled, and then I smother it in Diablo. So that's my bean burrito hack. You could also get it with black beans if you wanted. Then another new one, if you guys haven't heard, so I'm sure you've heard of our Crunchwrap, which is typically with seasoned beef. Well, now we have the black bean Crunchwrap. And I will tell you, I did not know how good black beans and nacho cheese sauce could taste together. It's delicious. So the black bean Crunchwrap is amazing. I recently moved, so packing, unpacking, starving all the time. I lived off black bean Crunchwraps. I would either just get them delivered or I'd go run by a Taco Bell real quick. I mean, I actually do crave Taco Bell now that I can't eat it every day because I was eating it almost every day and I do miss it. And then lastly, the cheesy gordita crunch. Super delicious. I mean, just as is. It has a spicy ranch sauce, seasoned beef. Again, you can get that with black beans, also amazing. Super delicious. So a lot of really good options at Taco Bell, and a lot of different ways that you can hack. And when you order online, it's just easier to hack. You can actually see like all of the ingredients that you have to play with. You can add as much produce as you want. You can add different sauces, switch things up. So really fun things you can do with the menu and things to customize. But there are 2 registered dietitians who work for Taco Bell and actually who represent the whole Yum system. We do support the other brands. So if you guys have any questions or ideas, you can absolutely ask us, and we'd be happy to share that. But we're really trying to plus out our website and add more information there. So you can definitely check out tacobell.com. Check out the nutrition page, which we have a nutrition calculator. We have our full nutrition stuff online, an allergen tool, ingredient statements. We also have some frequently asked questions that talk about our Food and Planet programs, and then we just outline all the work we've been doing. So let's see, what else can I share with you guys? I guess there's a couple couple things. I know I talked about, you know, the quinoa example, but I would say just in general, you know, it may be really easy to tell someone, you know, you should just reduce sodium, or you should just not do that, or you should have this thing on your menu, or why don't you have brown rice? Why don't you have whole wheat tortillas? All of these questions that would, you know, which, believe me, we've looked and tried a lot of things. But again, going back to the broadly appealing, we have to satisfy all the taste profiles of the consumers across the United States. It's a lot of different palates that you have to manage and also satisfy, because ultimately we are a for-profit business and we do have a lot of investors and stakeholders involved. But we also know that we want to do the right thing. So we have to, it's that sweet balance. So there's no one size fits all. There's no easy answer. Again, there's a lot of stakeholders involved in decision making, regardless of what it is, whether we're, you know, developing a packaging commitment or trying to reduce sodium or adding something to the menu. And so, you know, you have to think about not only just the taste, but how much does it cost? How does it work with the rest of the ingredients on the menu? Does it function the right way? And what's the supply chain of it? You know, we mentioned that too. And then you have to sell it in to everyone. Executives, franchisees, investors. We get questions from activist groups pressuring us on things as well. And so there's just a lot that goes into it. And I am not the sole decision maker by any means. I can recommend, I can propose, but you have to have good rationale for how it fits and how it benefits everyone. So there's just a lot that goes into a lot of this process. So Diane has a question on whole grain tortillas. Is that a thing there? I wonder how it would sell. So Diane, I worked on a Tortilla Project quite a few years ago now, where we were looking at improving our tortillas, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to see if we can sneak in some whole grain wheat or some whole grain corn or something like that. And so, oh my gosh, I went through so many different formulations and percentages and trying to get the whole grain claim as well, and looking at all kinds of options, and did a ton of consumer testing. But, you know, I'd say also tortillas are very regional. We did a lot of research around, you know, what kind of tortillas do people eat across the United States? And it's different across the board. I mean, in California, I think we like the traditional super fatty, more translucent tortillas, whereas some in the southern states, it's like more bready and white and thick. So across the United States, people eat different types of tortillas. So again, you got to take all into account. So while we in California liked these different styles of tortillas in the food team, our consumers did not. And cost-wise too, you know, pretty much tortillas are on the base of our menu. And so it makes up a big majority of our menu. So when you think about changing the tortilla and the formula, it impacts a lot of things. So a lot of consumer testing that goes into that, and ultimately they like the way our tortilla is. It was really, really hard to change. If you change it too much, they think, oh, it's too different. Or we looked at one that was like a whole grain corn flour blend. We increased the fat a little bit to make it a little bit more, because we were trying to reduce the sodium at the same time. Like, how many things can we do to this? And it looked translucent when it was a very functional tortilla, and it worked great. But consumers thought, oh, this is not going to hold all of the ingredients in my burrito. I think it's going to like explode. And so they were worried that the tortilla was not going to perform the same. It looked different. They didn't think it was going to perform the same. And so I think they just ultimately didn't like it, didn't want to change it. Yeah, so yes, please. So I'm getting some comments, great discussion. It looks like we're probably getting close to the end of the 30 minutes here, but yeah, I loved sharing my story with all of you, and thank you for joining and listening and being a part of this. It is interesting to just kind of talk what seems like to myself, but I also have a live audience, so I appreciate all of your commentary and all of your questions, and I hope that you check out some new food items and check out the black beans are my favorite, I have to say, and I pretty much get them in everything. But yeah, the black bean Crunchwrap, super delicious. Try the bean burrito grilled. figure out what your favorite hot sauce is. And I'd love to hear from you. When you try these things, like send me a note, Facebook, Instagram. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you tried. If you have any feedback, good or bad, I'm all open. I don't take it personally. So I would love to hear from you guys. And yeah, so thanks for having me. Thanks for hosting me. And this was my first Facebook Live. So appreciate you going through this trial with me. And I hope that you all have a lovely, lovely Friday and a great weekend. And hope I see some of you in person in the future at some point. Or virtually at some point. But yeah, if any of you have questions, again, my Instagram handle is MissFoodieRD, so you can message me there. My work email is missy.schaaphok@yum.com. I think you can find that on LinkedIn. So if, for those of you who don't know how to spell my last name, it is SCHAAPHOK. And you can follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram. Again, check out Taco Bell's Food for All Journey website. And just check out all the great work we've been doing over the years. And, you know, definitely let us know how we can help you, help your clients, or whatever industry that you're in, because we do get a lot of questions on, you know, what should my clients eat, or what kind of programs are you working on? So we're happy to, you know, to answer any of those questions that you have too. So thank you all so much. I look forward to connecting with you in some way, shape, or form, virtually or in person. And again, thanks for such a great day and a great time.